The first scream came from the well. No one saw who it was, only the bucket rope, swinging wildly in the moonlight, dripping with water that smelled like blood. The elders sealed the well that night, warning that something beneath it had awakened. But a week later, a little girl named Ada walked to that same well, because she said it called her name in the dark. And when she leaned over the edge to listen, she didn't hear an echo. She heard breathing. Then a whisper came from the depths. "Ada, you're late." The morning after the scream, Odu village was silent. The elders gathered by the sealed well, their faces marked with white chalk, whispering prayers no one else understood. Flies buzzed over the wet soil where the rope had been cut. They said it was not blood dripping that night, it was the spirits warning. No one went near the well again. The women fetched water from the stream 3 miles away. The children were told never to play near the square after sunset. But Ada was not like the others. She was curious, sharp-tongued, and brave in ways that frightened her mother. That evening, while everyone stayed indoors, Ada stood by her window, watching the moonlight crawl across the dusty ground. Then she heard it, faint, soft, but clear enough to freeze her heart. It was her name, once, twice, each time from the direction of the sealed well. Her hands trembled as she shut the window, but the voice came again, even closer now, not from outside, but from underneath the floor. The sound was hollow, wet, and slow, a whisper that felt like breath against her ear. "Ada, come back." She didn't know it yet, but that voice had been waiting for her long before she was born. Ada didn't sleep that night. She lay still on her raffia mat, her eyes wide open, watching shadows crawl across the mud wall. Her mother, Mama Ngozi, snored softly beside her, the sound of calm Ada no longer trusted. Because every time she closed her eyes, she heard it again, that whisper, sometimes from the floor, sometimes from the window, sometimes from inside her head. By dawn, she was sweating, even though the air was cold. When morning finally came, Ada followed her mother to the market square, pretending everything was fine. But as they passed the old shrine near the well, the ground beneath Ada's feet pulsed, like a heartbeat deep underground. She froze. "Mama," she whispered. "Do you hear that?" Mama Ngozi didn't answer. Her eyes flicked to the sealed well, and for a moment, fear flashed across her face, the kind of fear that looked like recognition. That night, when the moon rose red over the village, Mama Ngozi burned dry leaves by their doorway and began to chant softly, words Ada had never heard before. Ada asked, "What are you saying, Mama?" Her mother's voice trembled. "I'm asking the spirits to forget your name." Then she blew out the fire, but somewhere, far away, the well whispered again. And this time, it laughed. For days, Ada noticed how her mother avoided the well. Whenever they passed the square, Mama Ngozi would take a longer route, whispering prayers under her breath. One evening, when Ada pressed her to explain, her mother snapped. "You ask too many questions for your own good." But later that night, Ada woke up to the sound of her mother crying. Soft, broken sobs filled the small hut. Through the thin curtain, Ada saw her kneeling beside a small wooden box, clutching something that shimmered faintly in the lantern light. It was a lock of hair, tied with red thread. "Mama," Ada whispered. Her mother turned sharply, eyes red and terrified. "Go back to sleep, Ada, please." But Ada couldn't, because she had seen something carved on the box, an old symbol she had also noticed on the stones around the sealed well, a spiral drawn backward. That night, she dreamed of water, black and endless. A hand reached out from the surface, pale and trembling, holding that same red thread. And from beneath the water came a voice, hollow and echoing. "Blood remembers, even when you try to forget." The next morning, Ada went to the one person her mother feared, Elder Nana, the oldest man in the village and the keeper of forbidden tales. He sat by the fire under the giant iroko tree, his eyes milk-white with age. "Ah," he said when Ada approached, You have your grandmother's look. Curious eyes, always peering where they shouldn't. Ada hesitated, then asked, "What happened at the well? Why did the village seal it?" For a long moment, Nana said nothing. Then, in a voice like dry leaves scraping stone, he replied, "Because something below the well isn't sleeping anymore." He leaned closer, his cracked lips trembling. "And child, that thing knows your name." Ada's heart thudded. "Why mine?" Elder Nana's head dropped. "Because your mother made a promise she could not keep." Before she could ask what he meant, he grabbed her wrist, surprisingly strong, and whispered, "Never go near that well. If you hear it call again, run before it finishes your name." Ada pulled away, shaken. But deep inside, she knew she would return. Because every warning made her need to know what her mother was hiding even more. 3 nights later, the wind turned strange. It carried the smell of rain and something older, like iron and ashes. The dogs howled before midnight, and from somewhere deep in the village square came a faint, hollow thud, 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 like someone knocking from underground. Ada couldn't resist. She crept from her bed, barefoot and trembling, carrying her lantern. The moon was hidden behind clouds. The village was asleep. But as she neared the old well, she saw it. The clay seal that covered the opening was cracked. Her breath caught. A chill raced through her body. The rope that had been cut before was there again, newly tied, wet, glistening as though freshly pulled from the water. Then a voice drifted out, soft and patient, like it had been waiting. "Ada, you came." The flame in her lantern flickered violently. The ground trembled beneath her feet. And just as she turned to run, something cold and slimy brushed against her ankle, sliding upward, wrapping around her leg like a hand. The whisper rose again, now angry, hungry, echoing through the night. "Don't leave me again." Ada screamed and kicked, falling backward into the dirt. Whatever had touched her leg slid away into the darkness. The rope swayed again, and the whispering stopped, replaced by a silence so deep it roared in her ears. She bolted home, heart pounding. Her mother was waiting by the doorway, eyes wide and terrified, holding a bowl of ashes. "You went there, didn't you?" Mama Ngozi cried. Before Ada could speak, her mother grabbed her wrist and froze. A faint spiral mark glowed beneath Ada's skin, right on her ankle where the cold touch had been. "No," Mama Ngozi whispered, stepping back. "It's chosen you." "Chosen me for what?" Ada shouted, but her mother didn't answer. She just fell to her knees, sobbing into her palms. "I should never have broken the vow. I should have let it take me instead." That night, Ada lay awake, staring at the mark. It pulsed faintly, as though something alive moved beneath it. Every few seconds, she thought she heard it whisper. Not a voice this time, a heartbeat. The next morning, Mama Ngozi called for Elder Nana. When he arrived, he carried a calabash of palm wine and a small white feather, symbols of confession and protection. He listened quietly as Mama Ngozi told the truth at last. Years ago, before Ada was born, there was a drought that almost destroyed the village. In desperation, Ngozi went to the river shrine and begged the spirit of the deep for water. The spirit agreed, but demanded a promise. The first child born under the next full moon would belong to the well. That child was Ada. Mama Ngozi couldn't do it. When Ada was born, she ran far from the shrine, burned the offering, and sealed the well to silence the spirit forever. But now, Elder Nana said, no vow to the deep is ever broken. What was promised will always find its way home. As they spoke, Ada sat outside, trembling. She could feel the mark on her leg burning, and from far away, under the ground, she heard faint laughter. That night, rain finally came, heavy, angry, and endless. The villagers rejoiced at first, running into the downpour, dancing under the thunder. But by morning, the water from every pot and bucket had turned black as soot. People panicked. The elders gathered again, and their voices trembled as they said, "The spirit has awoken." Ada's mark burned hotter than fire. The whisper returned, louder, clearer. "Come back, Ada. The water remembers your name." She stumbled outside, drawn by a force she couldn't resist. The muddy path led her straight to the well. As she approached, the rain slowed. The air thickened. Her reflection shimmered in a puddle, but it wasn't her face anymore. It was pale, with eyes like deep water and lips that moved without sound. And then, from the well's cracked seal, a drop of black water splashed onto her foot and hissed, as if the ground itself rejected it. Somewhere behind her, a door slammed. Her mother screamed her name, but Ada couldn't move. She was already listening. Elder Nana came that evening with charms and ashes. He marked symbols on Ada's forehead and told her, "If you dream tonight, do not answer any voice that calls you by name." But dreams don't obey warnings. As Ada slept, she found herself standing before a mirror made of still water. The reflection spoke first. "I am what your mother feared." Ada stepped back, but the reflection smiled, a cold, watery grin. "I was promised your breath, your laughter, your life. When she broke the vow, I drowned instead." "Who are you?" Ada asked. The reflection's eyes darkened. "Your sister." The mirror rippled violently. Faces appeared beneath the surface, women, children, all with the same spiral mark glowing faintly on their skin. The water spirit hissed. "The well is our mouth. And you, Ada, you are the next voice it will swallow." Ada woke screaming, her clothes drenched, not in sweat, but in river water. When the moon rose again, it was red, brighter than anyone in the village had ever seen. The same color it had been the night Ada was born. Elder Nana gathered the villagers and warned, "Before dawn, the spirit will call her once more. If she answers, none of us will see the sun again." Mama Ngozi locked the door and wept silently, praying the chant she had learned as a girl. But Ada couldn't stay inside. The mark on her leg was burning like fire, and the whisper had become unbearable, a constant voice echoing from inside her skull. "Ada, the water waits." The door creaked open on its own. The wind outside sounded like breathing. She stepped into the red moonlight, barefoot, following the whisper's pull toward the well. Behind her, her mother screamed, but Ada didn't hear it anymore. Because for the first time, she could see the shape rising from the well, a figure made of water and shadows, wearing her face. And it was smiling. The shape rose higher from the well, its body rippling like water trying to take human form. Its eyes glowed faintly blue, its lips parted in a trembling smile. "Don't be afraid," it whispered, though the sound made Ada's bones ache. "You were meant to join us." Ada stepped back, shaking. "You're not me." The spirit tilted its head. "Not anymore. I am what you should have been. When your mother sealed the well, she left me drowning in silence. You breathed my life. I took her promise." Ada could hardly breathe. Around them, the night grew colder. The trees leaned inward as if listening. "What do you want from me?" The spirit's voice softened. "To finish the cycle. To remember." Before Ada could speak again, the figure dissolved into mist and sank back into the well, leaving only a whisper behind. "When the sun rises, the water will choose." Elder Nana came before dawn. He scattered white chalk around Ada's house and drew 3 circles in the dust. "Child," he said, "the well is not a monster, it's a door. Long ago, our ancestors offered part of their spirits to guard this land. But when your mother refused the pact, the door was trapped half open. Now both sides are calling for balance." He placed a gourd in Ada's hands, filled with river water. "If you return this to the well before sunrise, the spirit may rest. But if fear stops you..." His eyes clouded with sorrow. "Then the well will drink again." Ada looked at her mother, who nodded weakly. "Go, my daughter. I cannot face it, but you can end what I began." The mark on Ada's leg pulsed once, painfully, like a heartbeat saying yes. She walked alone through the sleeping village. Mist clung to the ground, and every footstep sounded like two, haze, and something following. When she reached the square, the air was thick with whispers. Faces flickered in the mist, some human, some only outlines. They whispered her name the way the wind whispers through hollow wood. At the edge of the well, she lifted the gourd. The water inside glowed faintly. "Take it," she said. "Take what was promised." But the voice from the well answered, deeper now. "Water cannot drink water. Give me what remembers." She realized it didn't want the gourd. It wanted truth. Ada knelt and whispered, "I forgive her." The ground trembled, and the mark on her leg began to fade. For a heartbeat, the night grew still. The stillness broke. A surge of water erupted from the well, wrapping around Ada like arms of smoke. Her body went cold, her vision blurred. Within the water, she saw memories not her own. A young woman crying beside the well, a baby's cry, the sealing of the stones. The spirit's voice surrounded her. "Now you see, I was never only hunger. I was the forgotten promise." Ada's breath trembled, then be remembered. She poured the glowing water from the gourd into the well. The light spread through the cracks like veins of gold. For the first time, the voice below sounded at peace. But as the light faded, so did Ada's strength. She fell beside the well, her eyes dimming as dawn touched the horizon. The first sunlight in weeks broke through the clouds. The black water turned clear again. Birds sang. The villagers came running, gasping at the sight of the unsealed well. Calm, shining, harmless. Elder Nana found Ada lying still, her hand resting on the stone edge. The spiral mark was gone. So was the fear. When Mama Ngozi held her, a faint warmth returned to the girl's skin. Ada opened her eyes and whispered, "She's gone, but she's free." Then she smiled, the same soft, peaceful smile that belonged to both of them. From that day, the well was no longer feared but honored. The villagers left offerings there every new moon, not out of terror, but gratitude. Because they finally understood, the spirits of the forgotten don't seek revenge, only remembrance. After the morning Ada awoke beside the well, something in the village shifted. The air felt lighter, yet older, as if the land itself had exhaled for the first time in generations. Children played near the square again. Women drew water from the well without trembling. But each time they looked at Ada, they bowed their heads slightly, not out of fear, but reverence. Elder Nana began calling her Mwani Mary, the woman touched by water. Though she smiled, Ada often felt a quiet pull when she stood near the well. Sometimes she swore she could hear faint humming from beneath, a lullaby her grandmother once sang. Her mother avoided speaking of that night, yet Ada noticed that the shadows in her eyes had softened. The curse was broken, but Ada knew that peace always comes with a price, and peace, once touched by spirits, never stays ordinary. Weeks later, during the new moon, Ada walked alone to the river. The reflection on the water was not her own. It smiled at her, same face, same eyes, but its lips moved differently. "You gave me peace," it whispered, "but the river remembers what the well forgets." The water rippled. Beneath the surface, shapes moved, silhouettes of women, hair flowing like vines, eyes bright as stars. Ada felt no fear, only understanding. These were the others, spirits bound by broken promises, still waiting for someone to remember them. One reached out a hand of shimmering light. Ada hesitated, then touched it. For a heartbeat, everything was silent, and in that silence, she heard hundreds of whispers thanking her. When she blinked, the river was still again. Only the night breeze remained. But the chill in her bones told her the boundary between their worlds had thinned forever. That night, Ada dreamed of the past, but not as terror. She saw her grandmother singing by the well, offering palm wine and cowries to unseen guardians. She saw her mother as a girl, laughing freely before the curse began. Then the dream changed. Ada stood at the edge of the well, but this time the spirit rose smiling, whole, no longer pale or angry. "Thank you for remembering," it said. "When you tell their stories, we live again." Ada awoke with tears on her cheeks. She knew what she must do. By dawn, she began recording the village's old songs, carving symbols into calabashes, and teaching children the stories that had been buried in fear. Each tale carried a whisper from the deep, stories of forgiveness, not vengeance. Months passed. The villagers decided to honor Ada and the spirit of the well with a new tradition, Miri, the festival of water and fire. They gathered around the square at dusk, lighting torches and pouring water from calabashes into the Ife, a symbol that light and darkness, memory and forgetting must exist together. Elder Nana lifted his voice. "We do not fear the well anymore. We remember it, and in remembering, we keep our souls whole." When Ada stepped forward, the wind carried the faint scent of rain and something older. She felt a touch on her shoulder, cold, gentle, like the spirit had come to join the celebration. For the first time, Ada truly smiled. Years later, long after Elder Nana and her mother had passed, Ada became the village storyteller. She sat by the well each night, children gathered around her, and began her tales the same way every time. There was once a girl who heard her name whispered from a well. The children would gasp and lean closer, though they'd heard it countless times. Sometimes, when the moon was high, the waters shimmered, and if you listened carefully, you could hear a faint voice whisper, "Tell it again." Ada would nod and continue, her voice weaving through the night like river mist. Because in that story lived a truth older than fear itself. The forgotten only become monsters when no one remembers who they were. And as long as Ada spoke, the well remained silent, but never empty. If this story sent chills down your spine, remember, some wells are sealed not to keep things in, but to keep us from hearing what still remembers our name. Tell me in the comments, would you have answered the voice from the well, or walked away forever? Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, because the next story I tell might be the one that whispers your name.